Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone.
Good morning, Lindsay.
Hi, Nick.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you flooded out?
Surprisingly okay, actually.
Okay. We've been having torrential, very strange weather in the Bay Area lately.
We have. It almost snowed.
I know. It's been a bit nuts in California. Good to see many familiar faces. Congrats to you guys for getting the time change right. I know that was very confusing for many people managing time zones and your calendars. So welcome, Felipe, Rafael, Mauricio, Celso, Rodrigo, Lisa, Eduardo. Good to see all of you here. Welcome back to another payments industry coffee chat. For those of you who it's your first time, welcome. My name is Lindsay Lehr, and I'm the Managing Director of Payments and Commerce Market Intelligence, or PCMI. And we've been leading these coffee chat sessions. This is our 4th year running. We began them in the pandemic as a way to offer an open space for the industry, our contacts to come together and discuss industry developments, what was happening with the pandemic. And it's really become a popular learning, knowledge sharing session for themes across payments in Latin America. So we're very excited to have you back. And just a couple of quick guidelines to ensure a successful coffee chat this morning. We've got our standard legal notice. Please take that into account. I'm sure you see this on every single webinar that you attend, so nothing new. What is new on our next slide is virtual etiquette for our coffee chats. This is only the second one of this year, so that we have several new faces. Remember, this is not a typical webinar. This is an open participatory forum. So we want your cameras on, we want your mics on, we want you to actively participate. We have some content we'll be sharing from our very special guest speaker today, and we're hoping that stimulates a lot of conversation. So feel free to jump in. You can raise your hand. You can put a question in the chat. Feel free to ask your questions in Spanish or Portuguese, and we can translate. Not a problem. So we expect and hope that you guys will be participatory today. Couple of other quick announcements. All of our content for today's and all of our coffee chat content you can find on our website. So you have the QR there. We'll also throw the link in the chat. So if you're curious, if you want to access these slides later, that is available to you. And on the next slide, I want to invite you all to a very interesting webinar we're going to be having. It's actually a webinar series entitled The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. This is an article series that we do every year across our industry practices, including industries outside of payments. It's going to be only a 30-minute webinar in which Sullivan, Andreas, and myself will be talking about the good, bad, and the ugly of payments in Latin America in 2023. It's a very interesting year. I hope you can join us on March 21st at 12:30 Eastern. I also invite you to check out our other industry practice webinars, especially if you're in the e-commerce industry. Logistics may be interesting to you. Latin America General is a macro view led by John Price, who many of you know will also be a very interesting session. So I encourage you to sign up. You've got the QR code there, as well as the link to register in the chat. And one registration signs you up for all 4 days, and you can participate in the ones that you're interested in. All right. With that, I'm very pleased and excited to welcome our speaker today, Erika Daguani, VP of Product at EBANX. EBANX is a long-standing partner of AMI and PCMI. You guys may be very familiar with the Beyond Borders report, which EBANX has created into a staple publication in Latin America e-commerce that we collaborate with them on. And so, Erika, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm really, really excited to be here with you, with all the team, and thanks PCMI, AMI, and Sullivan for this invitation. Very happy.
Excellent. We're looking forward to getting into what you have to share with us today. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to be talking today specifically about open finance, but more specifically payment initiation in Brazil. Erika will share much more about this, but EBANX has recently received its license to be an official payment initiator, so a payment initiator service in Brazil. So we're going to learn a little bit more from a company actually operating under this model, what this means, what implications this will have and what we can expect from this innovation brought from the central bank and now being built out and deployed actively in Brazil. So just to remind us what we're talking about and to lay the context a little bit here, a couple of slides from our Megatrends presentation a couple of weeks ago. As you all know, well, not everyone does know. I always get questions, what is PIX? So PIX is the Brazilian Central Bank's real-time payment platform launched in 2020 that has absolutely transformed the Brazilian payment infrastructure. We have massive growth levels here, massive adoption rates, over 70% of consumers using PIX at this point. And on the next slide, really seeing how PIX has started to really impact e-commerce and other purchases, other transactions. When PIX was first launched, it was thought PIX was really going to be a cash displacement mechanism. But on this chart on the right, this light green line here is the volume of PIX throughout 2020. PIX purchases, PIX P2B only, mostly used in e-commerce, but also in the physical channel. And we see that PIX is really has reached the level of debit card transactions. And so we're going to be watching PIX throughout the year to see how both of those payment methods behave, to be able to analyze whether or not PIX is starting to take away share from debit cards. Regardless, it has expanded the pie for digital transactions and digital purchases. And every Brazilian here, I think, knows, has already incorporated PIX into their daily lives. One very interesting implication of PIX and both the open finance agenda of the Brazilian Central Bank is what we call payment transaction initiation or payment initiation service, which Erika is going to give us a much deeper insight into. But it's this component of open finance in Brazil that has been talked about a lot. We've heard a lot of announcements about it. We've heard a lot about it in the news. Basically enabling companies to initiate a PIX transaction without requiring the user to revert back to their open banking and provide the authorization. So creating a more seamless transaction. And on the next slide, we have details about how this works. I'm not going to really talk about this in detail now. You can go to this slide for reference if you want to kind of read what a PIX transaction looks like without payment initiation and what it looks like with payment initiation. But I'm gonna let the expert talk to us about that to really understand. I have a lot of questions. I'm sure the audience does as well. What this means, how it works, what the implications are, and for EBANX, what I think is really important is you guys are a cross-border payment enabler. And so how does this work specifically in a cross-border e-commerce environment? So Erika, I want to give you the floor. Thank you so much for being here. At this point on, guys, please feel free to jump in. I'll kind of be asking questions along the way so that we can have an open discussion.
Great. Thanks, Lindsay. Great introduction. I think that you already give a lot of color on what we are discussing here. So again, my name is Erika Daguani. I'm Vice President of Product at EBANX. I've been working in the payment industry for around a little bit more than 20 years. So I'm really, as you can see, I'm really passionate about the payment industry. It's very nice to see how, especially in Brazil, because Brazil is my country, but also in Latin America, how fast and how the payment providers, the payment methods are improving year by year. And at EBANX, so EBANX is a global fintech really specialized in rising economies. So we provide solutions, more than 100 payment methods for our global companies, for global companies all over Latin America and Africa. Founded by 3 brilliant entrepreneurs based in Curitiba. So lots of things really focus on give access and allowing consumers to pay the way they have in hands, the way they want to pay. What is the most convenient payment method for them? So moving forward, and to very brief explanation about PIX, because I believe that most of us already know, but just to remember, it is a very brand new product, right? Launched back into 2020. So we are talking about a 2 years product. However, it is the adoption is super fast and early adoption. So as you can see, we are talking about 75% of the adult Brazilians already using Pix. In a country that we have a little bit more than 80% of banked population. However, only 40% of those of this population have access to a credit card. So that's why the alternative payment methods are very important in Latin America and especially in Brazil. So this product is really focused in digitalization. So bring to the ecosystem everybody. So giving access for everyone that have a bank account or deposit account would be able to transfer money from one part to the other. So it born as a peer-to-peer, however, it can coverage a lot of different use cases. As Lindsay mentioned in the beginning, so the trend in terms of the peer-to-be transaction is really phenomenal. So very nice to see how the adoption is. So bringing some numbers, we are talking about a 11 trillion BRL, Brazilian reais in volume transacted in last year. It is accounted for 24 billion transactions in 1 year. And if we see just January, we are talking about the trend is even higher, right? So we are talking about 2.5 billion transactions in 1 month and 1.1 trillion in BRL, in reais BRL. So if we move forward for the next, and I'm gonna ask Lindsay if you kindly, or Sullivan, if you read the chat, because I was not able to do both at the same time. So if there is any question or comment, please let me know, okay? Then I will stop.
Really?
Cool. So Pix and digital commerce. So as I mentioned, we are talking about a product that can fit different use cases, not only for peer-to-peer transaction, but for e-commerce as well. And here we saw the big trend for e-commerce. Here in the chart, we are bringing numbers from account-based transfers in Latin America. So the purple one is Brazil, and basically is mainly Pix. However, it has another payment methods here as well. So as you can see, the volume year over year is increasing significantly. So it is a rocket in terms of growth, not only in Brazil, but all the alternative payment methods in general are getting even faster, especially in e-commerce. When we are talking about e-commerce, I think that the fit is very perfect because e-commerce brings instantaneously, right? So you don't need to have a store open for you to go there and buy something. You can buy whatever time, if you are in your home, like in the, it doesn't matter the time. So you can pay or you can buy something online anytime. And the instant payments also bring it to the table, right? So you can also don't need to wait your payment method to approve your transaction because you have it in real time. You don't need to have access to a credit line for you to buy. You just have it, right? And moving to the next slide, I also bring the connection, and for me, the message here is the name of the game is instantaneously. So as you can see here, the chart on the left side, we bring some different payment methods. So we alternative payment methods, and all of them are real-time payments in all over Latam. So this is not something that happens in Brazil, but it's also happening in the Latin America. So name of the game is real-time, transparency, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So anytime that the end user wants to pay, they are able to do so. So here, just to make sure that we are paying attention. Now Pix is in orange, and digital wallets in purple. So again, as you can see, how expressive is the growth, not only the growth, but the share of Pix in Latin America and also in Brazil. And in the chart in the right, you can see that 2 years old, but Pix already is accountable for 16% of the share of e-commerce in Brazil. In 2000 and last year, it closed the year around 20 or 22% of the share of checkout. So growing, so the trend is really up. And nice also to mention about PSE, another instant payment method in Colombia, very popular, similar than Pix. And also nice to mention that most of the regulatories are also in touch with the central bank. So the team from Pix is also like doing a round table around Latam, talking about Pix, sharing knowledge and information regarding that. And yes, so in Colombia, for example, PSE acquires 32% of the share of e-commerce. So there is a lot of space for those payment methods to still grow, and there is an avenue in terms of opportunity. Moving for the next slide, I love this chart because, as I mentioned in the beginning, so we are talking about a banked, like unbanked population. So if you see in Latin America, the purple square is the purple bullet, shows the credit card ownership, and the green one shows the account ownership. So as you can see in Latin America, for example, even though a little bit more than 70% of the population are banked, only 28% of this population have access to a credit card. You have like the discrepancy is big, majority in all the countries. You can see, for example, Brazil. So like I mentioned before, a little bit more than 80% of the population is have a bank account or a deposit account. However, only 40% have a credit card. So that's why the space is very big for alternative payment methods. And that's why those payment methods are very, very focused on user experience. So putting the end user in the center of the experience, bringing confidence, bringing transparency, real time, instantaneously. So bringing information and security will gain those end users for them to be, have users in this payment method. Nice to mention, for example, Chile as well. So even though like almost 90% of the population have a bank account, you see the numbers of people who have access to a credit card is even lower than Brazil, right? A little bit more than 20%. So I think that this chart brings us a lot of insights to see how fast or how big is the opportunity for alternative payments in general. Then moving forward, and then PISP. Lindsay already bring us a good vision. I'm gonna say that if you Google it, what PISP is, Payment Initiation Service Provider, you will find something like a service provider who can execute a payment transaction on behalf of a customer. Myself, so Erika, as a product head and passion about solving problems, and yes, no one is normal. If you everybody's a little bit crazy, so I'm crazy. I love to solve problems. I would say that PISP bring a evolution for Pix. very focused on mobile experience. Nice to mention that how is the mobile coverage in Latin America in general, and I think that in the world, all this back and forth experience that you have when you want to complete a PIX transaction is addressed in the PISP experience. I'm not saying that the PIX experience is bad. Definitely is not. It is good. So all the copy and paste features have been improving by the central bank, and I think that PISP address another use case for that, which is really, really nice for me to see how the provider, how the PIX provider is focusing on payment experience. Moving forward, and I think that,
can I pause you for a quick second?
yes,
I skipped over it very quickly in our presentation, but could you just spend a moment to explain the copy paste concept? Because I don't know if everyone's familiar. Brazilians have had this experience of actually having to do it.
yes.
And any other Brazilian who wants to chime in, what is this experience like, and how is it different with payment initiation?
Okay, is there any other Brazilian that would like to give a testimonial, or should I move forward? Okay, it is a good, I think that, remember boleto? So yes, we are used to print a piece of paper with a barcode, go to a lottery house and pay for it. So sometimes it seems like quite weird for other, especially when we are talking about globalization, digitalization that I'm mentioning. But the copy and paste mean you have your bank account or your deposit account. So when you are in a website purchasing something and then you choose PIX, you select PIX, what are going to happen is it will, if you are doing it in a desktop, it can show for you a QR code. You have your app, you have your phone, you open your you open your app, bank app. You can just scan the QR code and then you just proceed the next steps as your bank defines. So putting your PIN, so doing whatever security that the bank app requires. If you are in a mobile experience, so like me, I love to buy things when I, chilling, so having some free time. If you are doing this on your phone, then you choose PIX. The checkout will present you a line with a full of numbers. Some merchants already give you a copy button where you copy this big line with a lot of information. Then you need to shift to your bank account, to your bank app, find the app like login, find the path for PIX, then choose I want to pay a PIX, paste the PIX, and then do all the following. So you have, I would say, I don't know, 5 or a little bit more steps for you to conclude the transaction. And with PIX, it will be much easier because it will be like a transparent redirection. And I have a demo here. It will be a much easy redirection for the customer to complete the transaction. So we will gain some 3 to 4 or 3 steps to complete the transaction. Am I clear?
Yeah, that's very clear. And it reminds me, in the US market, we don't have something like this yet. But it reminds me of the copy paste reminds me of 2-factor authentication, right? Where you have to go from one device, you're trying to make a transaction, we're texting you put it back.
Exactly.
But the more that becomes the standard, of course, our expectations are increasingly moving upwards. So, Sullivan was making the
yeah,
point.
you are perfect, Lindsay. Not to mention when the payment method like require you to take your card to see the CVV information, then you need to also type it in. So yes, you are right. I think that the experience is all the center. All this redirection that you mentioned when we are talking about 3DS, for example, which is a security protocol, which I agree with. I think that the whole industry must be very, very focused and worried about security. However, we do have ways to bring security without bringing friction in the transaction. So this is about not bringing friction. So I don't need to stop what I'm doing, like, I don't know, find my cell phone, like you said. So you do without all this redirection, without bringing insecurity for the transaction. Not to mention that sometimes for those back and forth, like you end the transaction in your bank account, so in your bank app. So you don't even know if the transaction was completed or not, if the merchant received the completed transaction or not. So the end user like ended up being a little bit lost in this copy and paste redirection experience. And as you mentioned, the 3DS.
Erika, do you guys have, and anyone else can jump in with their own experience, but this copy paste, clearly Brazilians have figured out how to do it because Pix has been has gained a lot of penetration in e-commerce. So people have figured out how to do it, but do you have insight on the abandonment rate with this copy paste? How does it compare to cards? Do you expect it to go up with payment initiation? Anyone have any insight on that?
Can you repeat the question, please?
I'm wondering if, I don't know how many merchants or service providers we have in the group, but I'm curious, what is the transaction success rate with purchases for Pix, considering the copy paste redirect flow that customers have to go through? And do we expect this to go up significantly with payment initiation? Do you have any thoughts on that, Erika?
I can talk about Brazil, but we can talk about Europe. It's a different process when you have the payment initiation. You take off the validation of the process. Like America, you take the first time you want to make is create the authentication tokenization of the process of the user, and then you have to make the transaction beyond the table in the background to make the process happen. You forget about the authorization or authorization.
Sure.
Versus the actual process in Brazil, you need to create all the initiation process has to be created like an e-billing process inside the bank. You have authorization in the bank, you have the e-billing authorization, you have a new bill to pay, and you authorize or enable this bill to be paid by the bank. You have two-step process because the bank has to intervene to have the pre-authorization for the customer to enable the payment versus the product. Having said that, you need to log into the bank, review the bill, that's the code or the new value or code using for this Pix authorization, and then you go to the system and say, yes, that's a valid transaction, let's go forward. With the payment initiation like Europe, that's a copycat. You can have the option to have everything in the background, to initiate the process, happen, authorize the people because you have an entity, in this case, EBANX, they want to enable you to be authorized to validate the customer with the financial institution, and then you have to go to the transaction just to say, yes, it's a valid transaction, it's authorization, and then you're going to be forward with just some additional code. It's going to take at least 3 or 4 steps in the process.
Correct. So that's the copy paste flow. Erika, do you have any insight as to how this will impact like purchase abandonment rates or authorization rates?
Lindsay, it will vary a lot depending on also the type of merchant, right? And also the device that the transaction is being started. So what I think that what I can say here is the most popular account-based transfers that we have so far is Boleto, and Pix is already showing that the friction and the conversion rates are better than Boleto. So it's improving a lot. I don't see like a standard answer as of now, especially because it's super new yet, right? I think so.
Absolutely. Melissa, no, she just, okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Erika. Please continue.
There was someone talking, or should
I think you just didn't mute her.
Okay, got it. So moving to the next slide, again, not to talk much about this, but we are talking about benefits for consumer, similar, fast, and much more affordable experience. Again, this is something that it's on the central bank speech. So they bring they are really worried about user experience. Once I was watching a speech from them, and they said, if we are able to get a kid, like a 10 years old kid, doing the experience by themselves, then we know that we are very good, because it must be, simple and fast. Especially for this generation, which is not mine, that do not have a patience to wait for things. So I think that this is the name of the game. And moving forward, also focusing, when we think about the user experience, we are also worried about the impacts and what are the benefits for the merchant, right? So it must be win to win for the entire stakeholders. So we are talking about, as not to be much repetitive, but focus is less friction, payment process is streamlined, and in consequence of this, the focus is bringing higher conversion rates, consumer retention. I used to say that the payment itself is one of the first important moments for the end user when you are buying, because when you are just like looking around, you do not decide to buy something, you are just looking around. But when you decided to pay and to move forward, you start a relationship with this merchant, right? And if you get like a worst experience when you decided to pay, then, I don't know if I'm going to try to pay again. I have problems with this merchant. So it's very important when you have like this important moment for the journey of a customer and you get it successful. I think that you can push the entire, all the other players to make things done. The delivery, the logistics, so everything will work even like better, and everybody will improve the entire experience, because in the end of the day, what everybody wants is a good experience, right? For the one who is buying, for the one who is selling. So everything must be smooth and good. And also thinking about security. It is something important. It is online. So you must make sure that who is doing the transaction is the person. So 3DS, like you mentioned, Lindsay, is think like is protocols to bring security behind the scenes as well. Moving forward,
Erika, sorry to interrupt you. I really like what you said about like forcing everyone to improve their state to improve, right? It just creates a new bar. It creates a new level standard. So that's really, and of course, when competition does something, everyone races to try to meet or improve that. So that's a great point. And Felipe here, I don't know, Felipe, do you want to jump in with your comment?
Sure. Good morning. I was just saying that about the payment initiation out in Brazil. It is viable option.
It's breaking just for me.
Oh, Felipe, you're breaking up quite a bit. You're breaking quite a
From the
bit.
payment online, and we had a oh. Can you hear me better?
Yes, so far.
Okay, so I was saying that I don't believe that Boleto is a viable option for checkout in e-commerce in Brazil once you cannot confirm online the payment. So who's going to buy online and wait a couple of days to have their payment confirmed and then start the delivery process? Copy and paste in that sense is an evolution, but it's a terrible experience because you have to go out, as you were saying, go check where your phone is. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for e-commerce in Brazil. I have a rate, I don't remind where it was from, but like upfront payments on e-commerce had cart abandon rate of 53% before the copy and paste. I believe that would be reduced now, and there is a lot of space.
53%, you said.
52 before Pix.
Right.
I can find that source.
Yeah, that's interesting. The numbers are always interesting. It puts things really in context. What I think is fascinating is the fact that, you speak to a lot of people say, oh, the copy paste experience is terrible. And yet Pix has conquered a huge portion of the market. So I don't know, that demonstrates that Brazilians were ready for this new experience. Can it be improved? It sounds like absolutely. But nevertheless, it's made an impact.
Yeah,
So
I
just
agree.
can I just ask a question for clarity? So the copy and paste, you're basically copying from the merchant site and you're pasting it into your financial institutions page. And so you're basically doing a push payment. That eliminates a vast amount of payment fraud. It eliminates the big problem with credit and debit cards, which is, I didn't do that transaction, which is brilliant, actually. So you want to keep that. Yes, it's an extra step, but it actually eliminates a lot of payment fraud on that one side of it. So one of the questions that I have is like, that's fantastic. The other question I have is the fraud that goes the other way, which is where the purchase guarantees and dispute resolution come. Credit cards offer purchase guarantees. Is there any type of thing that's, Pix is new. It's a baby on the market now. It's going to take time to really mature. And part of that is going to be the question of, what if you buy something and you get sent an empty box? So I'm just wondering whether that you're starting to get numbers on disputes, whether that's still too early to really have anything. I was wondering if you had any information on that.
Great question, Nick. I think that's top of mind for a lot of folks. With someone who is going to jump in.
Business disputes are not inside the scope of PIX, according to the central banking regulation. So you cannot cancel a PIX. There is no way that you can cancel a PIX based on that. You have to deal with the merchant.
Yeah, I was assuming that. I was just wondering whether there's any plans for anything beyond that.
Yeah, I think that as Felipe mentioned, all the disputes are directly with the merchant, given you somehow you validate the transaction. So you can consider the transaction as a person present by when you type the PIN. So it is similar than when you do the 3DS transaction. It doesn't mean that you cannot dispute, that you cannot understand what has happened with the merchant, but you can consider the transaction almost verified, right, by the end user. And if you receive like you mentioned, Nikki, if you receive an empty box, then it will happen exactly what happens if you are using another payment method, right? So you must start a conversation with the merchant, right?
Well, yes,
and that's why
the thing is, and this is going to be the conversation going for the next decade or two is that as people start doing more and more online transactions in countries where it's relatively new, you're going to be hitting the kinds of problems we've had in the West with credit cards, where they had to start introducing the idea of, if we're processing the transactions on a credit card transaction, we are going to guarantee the purchase. And there was no expectation that that was going to ever be there. It only exists because the federal government required, if you lend money to someone to buy something, then you have to provide a guarantee on the product that they're buying. That's fascinating that that's the reason it exists in the first place. And it's now a central part of credit card purchases. I never buy anything with a debit card online because there's no guarantee on it. But I use a credit card every time because I know that I can go to my bank and I can raise a dispute if I do not get what I wanted. And there's a level of security on that. That's going to be the ongoing conversation for the next 10, 20 years. You cannot do that with cryptocurrency. You cannot do that with CBDCs. PIX is a brilliant, amazing, instant, relatively easy to use ACH system by the Brazilian central bank. It's amazing.
Go ahead.
But there's no guarantees on anything, and they can't do it. So the question then becomes of how do you address this bigger problem? As e-commerce grows, then fraud is going to grow.
Mm-hmm. That is fascinating, Nick. I don't think I've ever paused to think, not only do banks, issuers have to guarantee, they have to take on the risk of lending the money in the first place. Now they also, in combination with the networks, right, have to take on the risk of the purchase guarantee. And that helps justify the fees, right, that are behiend cards.
The fees are to cover payment fraud.
Exactly.
Everyone thinks, oh, credit card fees are so high. It's like, let's break it down and see who gets what for doing what job. They are actually surprisingly small if you look at the bigger picture. There's officially $25 billion of card fraud a year globally. The real number is massively higher than that. That's what they admit. The banks deliberately downplay the numbers because they don't want to look bad. But the real cost of payment fraud is not in the fraud itself, it's managing it. You got a phone number on the back of your card. You call your bank.
Right, the whole infrastructure built up around responding to these. Right.
It's a massive, massive problem that had to be looked at later after it started. PayPal came in with a new system. They never thought of payment fraud. They had to put a Band-Aid on it later, to use an American term.
And they've really built up their brand around transaction purchase guarantees and security in many ways. So
yes, and it's appalling. The only thing good about PayPal, it was better than anything else out there for online transactions.
Right.
But it's still based on a system that was never really intended for online transactions. Credit cards were never intended for online transactions. The internet did not exist when it started.
Mm-hmm. So it's true. We're still, e-commerce has been around now for, 2 decades or more, and we're still adapting. So, and I like what you said, Nick, about, PIX being a push payment in a sense where you are authorizing the transaction within your banking environment. So, Erika, let me go back to you. You were about to say, if there was some sort of dispute, the customer would have to contact the merchant to work that out. They might not have much recourse if the merchant isn't responsive, or what role do PSPs play in that scenario?
Yeah, I agree, and I hear Nikki concerns here, and I totally agree with you. I think that just one point, all the industry must work against fraud. So this is something that everybody must improve. And as I mentioned, I've been working in the industry for a little bit more than 20 years. In Brazil, when I started working, we have a lot of fraud on the present transactions. And then it comes with the chip and PIN. So the chip and PIN eliminates somehow the fraud, part of the fraud for the present transactions. Then the fraud moves to the e-commerce, and then the ecosystem starting working in a lot of features to also avoid fraud. I think that it happens when you go to a store and you buy with your money. The fraud is also present, so you can also have problems with your purchase, and you will need to figure it out with the merchant how you are going to solve the problem, the chargeback or whatever that you have in hands, that you have in the situation. But I think that the center here and the prism that I would like to see this problematic is we are digitalizing the money and bringing this population that just have alternative payment methods in hand to be able to buy online. Yes, we have a huge space to improve. We must working on it. But I think that we also have upsides here. So that's why I think that as the card industry are improving, the alternative payment methods must improve as well. Fraud is something that everybody needs to deal with and find ways to avoid. That's why I mentioned in the beginning as well regarding the trust, right? So I hear you, Nikki, and I hear a lot about trust. So yes, I buy online a lot. Every time that I will do my first transaction, I use my credit card. However, I'm just 40% of the Brazilian population. The other 60% simply do not have a card in their hands. So what is the point here? Are we gonna let them out of the possibility of buying online? Let's find ways to bring security. And I think that the copy and paste, push notifications, there are a lot of features that the entire industry is trying to put in place and to bring, and also not to also bring friction, because again, you must bring security, but not complicate a lot, right? So I think, yeah, it's a chicken and egg question.
I like the perspective of just, an evolution of alternative payment methods. They need to evolve as well. And soon we'll need a new word for alternative payment methods because they may not be alternative anymore.
Yes. Should I move on here?
Yeah, let's continue. I think we have
just some minutes. Yeah, this is
the demo is cool, so let's take a look.
Yeah, this is the demo, so how it will work. So so bringing less friction, it will be in a way secure somehow. You will select your financial institution, do the confirmation, and then you are good to go. We will share, I think, this presentation, right, Lindsay? So then afterwards they can check this out, and also I'm available for any chat before. So if you could move.
So this is, Erika, this is in theory, right? This is a mock-up, right? But this
Exactly.
is a merchant website, right? It says powered by EBANX at the top, I think, pagando via EBANX, but this is the merchant site. Can you just, I'm kind of going fast, but can you walk us through a little bit what's happening?
Yes, so you select that, yeah, there you go. So you select Pix as a payment method, then you see, if you, in the normal situation, you will get the line, the code for you to copy and paste. Here, you just continue doing the transaction. So you select your bank account, and then you just confirm that you are doing the transaction, in this bank account. And behind the scenes, like, we are contacting your bank account saying, hey, Erika is doing the transaction in this merchant. Can she move forward or not? And then you just put your, I don't know, the security that you have in your mobile, and then we consider this transaction done. So approved by the end user.
Perfect. So very, very interesting question from Felipe. Erika, how do you monetize PCMI?
Actually, it is super connected to Pix, right? We will monetize it. This is something that is embedded for the merchants that have PISP in general. So it will be charged as a Pix transaction. It's an improvement in the end of the day.
It's a technology to make the Pix transaction more successful.
Security, yes, exactly.
And Erika, if I may, I have a question on that. Fundamentally, the payment initiation is an improvement on the Pix experience, let's say. And so I would like to know if there are any other improvements that you see that are on the roadmap, even could be by EBANX or by the central bank, or anything new related to Pix that you think it will improve even more, other from PISP?
Yes, Sullivan, the roadmap for a product person is a never-ending roadmap, right? So it's a big wish list. It is not different for Pix. So you can follow all the next launches for Pix in the central bank website. They do have, they are covering all the use cases step by step. So they should cover, there is questions regarding recurrence. So how can we cover the recurrence transaction? So something for us to expect. They are now working and improving the Pix SAC, which is like a withdraw functionality. So yes, you can expect a bunch of new functionalities, not only in terms of security, but also like new products in the next years. Yes. It is again brand new, so 2 years. So the roadmap is very extensive.
All right, Erika, I have a very specific technical question about what I'm seeing here, because I'm liking this. You're on a merchant site, you select Pix, and then it opens, like you're on the merchant's mobile app. Then it opens your bank mobile app? Or do you open your bank's mobile app?
No, it will be like a push from your mobile app, but embedded in the experience for the merchant. So we are connecting your bank. The PISP provider is connecting to your bank, but providing the experience on the merchant side.
Okay, so you never actually open your bank's mobile app directly.
Exactly.
That is a problem. Because you could have a mobile app that makes it look like you've opened your bank, and now you put your thumbprint in or password. This is where there's a problem with redirects for internet. Oh, you've been redirected to Bank of America. Type in your password. Right, we now have your password. That is a problem.
That's like, when here in the US, when you're trying to connect your bank account to a third party via Plate or some other, you're now, it's a whole new flow that opens the transaction to vulnerabilities. It provides, more sophisticated and new fraud use cases.
You look for the
you had your thumbs up. Did you have a perspective on that?
I think the redirecting is, as Erika was saying, it's very unsafe. It opens a huge door for fraud, and it's a really bad user experience still. Like, it's very weird to be redirecting over and over as it happens on the PSP now in Brazil.
Can I give a little bit more background information? Just don't tell anyone I'm telling you this stuff. By far the bit of background information on credit card fraud, so that you get an idea of what's really going on. $25 billion officially recognized annually. The vast majority of it is committed by the Russian mafia. Seriously. They commit most
I
of it.
believe it. Yeah.
They have been doing this for 60 years. They are good at it. They see a weakness, they are going to jump all over it. That's the stuff that I've been on the other side, the good side of preventing that. For Erika, you're talking about 20 years. It's rather depressing. I've been in this industry for 35 years now on the technical side. I've been on the side preventing all of that. They're really good at committing the fraud. We're really good at preventing the fraud. It's like a stalemate, which makes it at a level that is manageable for the banks so that they can still offer the service. That's the game. When you get interoperability for payments, payment fraud is the game. These guys are good.
Yeah, it's an industry, right? It's an entire industry. So
yeah.
So Erika and anyone else, any new technology or any new flow is going to open the window for new types of fraud. Do you have a perspective on that already? How do you think about fraud with specifically the redirect or this new embedded flow?
I don't know if I give space for others. I love your perspective, Nick. And I think that this is the build of the game, right? So fraud will continue existing. This is a never-ending fight, but we need to find also alternatives to make things in a security way and bringing positiveness. I would say here. I receive SMS, emails, like a bunch per day saying, hey, I got your transaction for you to finish, click here. So I receive a lot of very creative ways from like phishing.
Like phishing,
every day. So this is not different for Pix. And also this is something that the industry must work with. So
and be aware of
and
sharing best practices, because it is so new and it's very exciting. And of course you want to jump on it and participate, but a balanced conversation is really needed to ensure safety. So we have about 2 minutes left. Erika, do you have a final slide or any final messages you want to leave us with?
Yes, I have this one, but I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna just want to get the advantage of saying, yes, we have bad guys. We also have good guys. I think that the idea here is to bring how the innovation can drive digital commerce and make people like me buying and feeling security to buying online. One person in Brazil, so we have one smartphone per person, so the mobile penetration is really, really high. Pix is a reality, so 90-80% of the transactions are made by a mobile, so I think that this is something that we need to keep an eye on. And I think that's it. I think that that's why we are here, bringing access for the ecosystem, trying to bring security as well. Fraud they are smart. We are more than them. And thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for the space, Lindsay. I have fun.
Oh, thank you, Erika, and thank you, everyone. Awesome conversation. I think I learned a lot and opened my mind to a lot of these issues. Congratulations to you and to EBANX for taking this step, and we're excited to see what new experiences and impacts it has for you, for your merchants, for your customers, and then more broadly in Brazil. So we'll definitely be paying attention and watching. So thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate it.
And Lindsay, not to mention that we also have the Beyond Borders. So we have, I really encourage you to download it. A lot of good insights and partnering with PCMI and PCMI. So we also bring
100%. Really recommend that publication. It's a great just encyclopedia, authoritative document on Latin America. So I definitely recommend that. Thank you for that reminder. These slides, again, will be available on the website. And just if we go to the next couple slides, I just want to remind you guys, our next coffee chat is actually April 6th. So we have a 3-week break, not 2 weeks. It's usually 2 weeks. This time we have a 3-week break, coming back on April 6th. And we're going to be continuing the conversation related to PIX more on open finance, not only in Brazil, but widely across Latin America with special guest Belvo. So make sure to join us April 6th. You guys will get emails and reminders about it. But thank you everyone for joining us. Erika, it was such a pleasure. We'll be in touch very soon. And thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.